Good evening. Sorry, Phoenix. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday night live edition of the Crowcast. Great to have everybody along, and with us this evening are our regular panelists, Nikki, Macca, and Dan Oz, who hasn't been with us for a couple of weeks. How are we, everybody, tonight?
Very good, thanks.
Cold.
Good, thanks, Pete.
We've got Phoenix just sitting there in the background and just tripped me up a bit there, but we jumped in and we got there in the end, and we're happy to have everybody along. And don't forget to send us your messages if you want to be interactive, and if you want us to discuss any issues or ask any questions, please do so. We'll be happy to do it for you. Great show lined up for you tonight. We have got a player interview tonight with Kyle Cheney, so make sure you're listening to that. It was a really, really good interview recorded a little bit earlier. And we've got Nikki's news. We've got a little bit of a segment devoted to Thommo. We've got a bit of a look at last week's game against the Blues. And we've also obviously got the cockwomble of the week, or the cockwombling number of the week, or what I should say. All right, without any further ado, we'll get on to Nikki with a bit of Nikki's news.
Told you so, all right. Come on.
Well, the very interesting thing that's happening tonight is the leadership group at the Bulldogs are meeting to discuss what's going on with Tom Boyd as to whether he comes back or not. And Beveridge, I think, kind of preempted it this afternoon's press conference, where he's kind of saying he was looking forward to him coming back in. So well done, Luke, on once again putting some pressure on your leadership group to do what you want them to do. So it will be interesting. I think the reason why he wants them back is that their forward line has not been firing at all, and they need all the help they can get. But the other big news was, of course, Ablett, who's now out for the season. And there's a lot of discussion about whether he should be offloaded or not.
Well, he'd be very hard to offload at the moment with a broken wing, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and it did take him a while to come back from that. So how many teams would actually be interested in taking him on? I mean, I know they're keen on trying to get Sierra and O'Meara, but I think that's actually going to be highly unlikely they keep both.
Yeah, that was my point, Nikki, is the fact is that it's not like the first time it's happened to him. He missed the start of the season with having an operation, and the operation didn't seem to work as well as it should. He's played several games now towards the middle part of the season, and it's gone again. And I think he's 33 years of age, isn't he? And at 33, you can't say, well, how much would you give for a 33-year-old player who's got a very doubtful wing?
And from reports, he was refusing to take painkiller or the anti-inflammatories. And he also was refusing to play if he thought he wasn't 100% fit. Now, in a way, that's kind of fair enough. But by the sounds of it, he had his way of dealing with it, and he didn't kind of want to listen to the medical stuff so much, was the impression that was being given out.
I think the suggestion, Macca, was that he not just be offloaded entirely from the Gold Coast Suns pay list. I think that the suggestion was that they offload him, but I guess compensate the receiving club with taking over or continuing to pay part of his salary, and so that the balance can be put toward perhaps someone like Prestia or O'Meara. So I think that was the suggestion. I think that that probably, from a Gold Coast Suns point of view, I don't think that the trade would be that big of an issue. I think it's about the salary cap. It's about freeing up a bit of money to get the other two away. So, I think if they got rid of him you're right, he's 33. In terms of trade value, I don't think that would be the incentive for the Suns. I think the incentive would more be to get rid of some of the salary cap, and I think that the incentive would be that they retain part of that.
Yeah. What Pete really was, who's going to want him? Because I know that he's been a champion, but at the moment he has gone from a champion to at his best, still a pretty good player, but on the decline. And as I said, with a shoulder that could go at any moment. So I certainly wouldn't want him at the Crows.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point too. And actually, Nikki, sorry, just going back to the point you were making about one of our favourites on here, Luke Beveridge, and the whole thing with Boyd. The thing that got me this week about Beveridge and Boyd was not the actual story about his suspension when he comes back. It was the whole issue of the parading of a player, Yong, at the Collingwood Football Club, and the way Beveridge came out and had a crack about that, to Nathan Buckley. And, how far are we advanced from when the Western Bulldogs were entertaining Boyd to get him down? It's just he's a hypocrite. And he's actually shown on a couple of occasions this year he's a hypocrite, particularly with questioning umpires and questioning them himself and criticising other clubs for criticising questioning umpires, namely us. And he's just one huge hypocrite, and he's just a very, very dislikable coach of a very, very dislikable team. There you go, I've said it.
Well, can't argue with that.
Interestingly about that, last night on AFL 360, of course, they have coaches' night. So you've got Chris Scott and Nathan Buckley. And with Buckley being the one involved in this, and Buckley was quite clear about going, we talked to him, we met with players, we took him over the other side. So, of course, he had to walk through the club to get to where we were going to meet. We didn't give him a tour. It wasn't anything like that. It was just what's happened previously. And he actually said he contacted Beveridge. Beveridge hasn't gotten back into contact with him in response to that because he was giving him a heads up. And they actually did say, they didn't name people, but both Chris Scott and Buckley said that lovely H word, hypocrite, in saying that, if people are coming out and are going to have a go, they need to look in their own backyard first. So I kind of get the feeling that within the AFL industry, he's not that well liked by some of the other coaches from what's been going on.
Yeah, I was going to say, Nicky, that he's a guy that said his mouth was flapped here and his mouth was flapped there, and he always is criticising somebody else for something that actually, in reality, he's probably guilty of himself. And I would say that you're quite right. I'd say that he'd be quite secretly one of the least liked men in the AFL.
Guys, sorry, I was going to say, any sorry to move everybody along, but just any other we've got a really, really big show tonight with Kyle Cheney's interview. Any other major news stories just quickly before we move on?
John Longmire has been signed until 2020 with Sydney. So if that all goes well, he will actually become the Swans' longest-serving coach.
Terrific appointment, that is, isn't it? He's a brilliant coach, and well done to the Swans there, I'd suggest.
And just one from me, Pete, that my understanding is, from a pretty reliable source, is that Jenkins has already signed his contract.
Brilliant.
Wonderful news. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, and, we've talked about alternative options and all those kind of things, but I think we all probably are others, most of us are the same, that you really want him to stay.
Definitely.
All right, great news, mate. And on that note, we'll kick along. We've very, very lucky tonight that the Footy Club provided us with a guy who's quickly becoming a fan favourite. I think he's doing a really, really good job down back. So we've got a interview tonight with Kyle Cheney.
Cheney comes in. He's missed left line. 2 chances. Had superb form this year, and last week was clearly their best, and Cheney just marking practice at half-back.
Yeah, he's full of confidence, isn't he? Just going for his grab nice and early.
Oh, no, well done, Cheney.
Yeah, very well done. He has been in defence. He's the aerial presence.
Wants to go. Going back, Dangerfield, reaching over the top. Cheney thumps it out of bounds.
He's done well down there, Cheney, in the one-on-ones.
Thanks very much, Phoenix. And joining us tonight for our player interview on Crowcast this evening is the defender for the Adelaide Crows, Kyle Cheney. How are you tonight, Kyle?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Probably just if we just take you outside of football a little bit, obviously from Victoria and come over to Adelaide to play. How are you finding Adelaide, the city, and are you enjoying the city? And perhaps let us know some of the things you do outside of football, just to get yourself absorbed into the town.
The transition's been really good so far. I grew up in country Victoria, so I guess Melbourne probably didn't suit my lifestyle too much, and Adelaide being a little bit of a smaller city really suits the way I like things. So I think, the transition's been really good, and off field I'm just doing a diploma in business with a few of the boys from the club, so keeping myself busy on the day off doing that. Everything's pretty smooth sailing at the moment.
Are there any places in particular that have caught your time and that you enjoy?
Well, I think the main attraction over here is probably the beaches, but the red hair and fair skin doesn't prove too much good over here. But there's some quality cafes and nice restaurants and stuff like that over here, and Adelaide Oval's a huge thing for Adelaide. So that's been good as well.
Mate, I can ask this question because my son has a similar complexion that you just mentioned there. We spoke to DMAC earlier in the season, and we were commenting that he was a bit of a remnant of a bygone era of bleach blondes at the club. Are you and Lynchy and those blokes starting to form a bit of a cartel of ginger?
Oh, absolutely. Strength in numbers, mate. Me, Saucy Jacobs and Tommy Lynch there, and we're separated by our lockers by Richie Douglas, who is not too happy with it, but we're all happy that we're pretty close, and Dean Gore's just over the other side. So there's a few of us there, and the more the better.
Yeah, beautiful work. And I'd imagine, because we often see the Rorys get together in the post-match sing-along, are you starting to get a similar tradition going with Chief and Co? I reckon you should if you're not.
I was going to say, it might be something we could look into. I have noticed that the three Rorys get together and sing a song, but I think it's probably something we could look into for sure.
It'd be good to see it on the TV, mate.
The cameras might need their lights a little bit, but that'll be all right.
Kyle, you've been a bit of a journeyman over the years, and this is the third club you've played for, because if I get it right, you did start your career with Melbourne, and before you went to Hawthorn, Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, drafted. There you
go. Well, since you've come to Adelaide, and particularly this year, you've really cemented a spot in the Adelaide team, and you're playing definitely the best football of your career. In fact, I think you're playing fantastic footy at the moment. Is that because you feel like you're really part of the team and you've now found a new home, or is it because of the style of footy we play, or the role you've been asked to play, or just plain confidence?
I think it's probably a combination of all the above, to be honest. I spent some time at Melbourne, and I was only pretty young when I was there, and didn't really get much of a look in. I played 14 games in 3 years, and then when I went over to Hawthorn, they were in a pretty successful era, and their back 6 and 7 was pretty locked down for most of the time I was there, and I was sort of come in and play a role. If someone was injured or Brian Lake was suspended or something like that, I'd come in and play a role, and then come over to Adelaide. And I think the personnel in the back line really complements each other. And I think when I was at Hawthorn, I played a role that probably didn't suit me too well, and I played on some taller forwards. But the role that I'm playing at the moment really suits the way I play, and we're playing some pretty successful footy as well, and we're all helping each other out where we can. And I think the key to it is we've just had 22 blokes that have contributed across the whole ground, which makes everyone play better along with that.
But you personally, have you found yourself a new confidence in your own game? Because you were very, very confident last Saturday.
I think I've always been relatively confident, but like I mentioned before, I think just the role that I've been given within the Adelaide team is probably suits the way I play a little bit better. And when you've got the likes of Talia and Hardigan and Lever taking those taller forwards, it gives me the license to play my role. And then we've got some, Brodie Smith and Rory Laird and Ricky Henderson on the weekend that provide that run and dash out of the back line. So I'm just that sort of player that sort of swings in between both those roles, and that really suits the way I play.
Thanks, mate.
Just a little bit further on that, Kyle. And incidentally, you could also go and stand with Kyle Hartigan and form the Kyle Club to go with the Rorys. But I just, from the outside looking in, it seems that the way the Pods is structuring up a defence, he's kind of looked at each of who he's got available, and we're structuring our game plan, our style, more based around all of the assets that each of you bring. Is that something that Pods has kind of brought in? Or I think it was heading that way a little bit last year as well, but it seems to be more so this year.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of Pods coming in, and also Pikey. He's obviously his first year in the role as well, and he's been huge on team defence. And everyone plays a role in defence, not just the back line that do that. And when we get pressure from the forwards with the likes of Eddie and Charlie up there, that they put pressure like no other in the competition, and the midfielders do the same thing. It makes our role a lot easier. And yeah, we've all got our certain roles, and we're all really confident in what we do with those roles. And we're gelling really well at the moment. And when we get pressure up the field, it makes our role a lot easier.
And just on your ability to take those lovely hangers that you do, now and I reckon there was a couple you actually took at Melbourne. So when you were in the schoolyard, were you always one who was playing take the hangers? Was that a favourite game of yours?
It probably was, yeah. Growing up in country Victoria, all our spare time we were either playing cricket or playing footy, and there probably was a few occasions where we'd just get a big group of guys and just try and take hangers on each other. But on the weekend, I was lucky enough that it was actually Rory Laird that stands at 3'2" that was underneath me. So it probably looked a lot bigger than what it was, but he's copping a bit of stick at the club about it.
What is it with you guys wanting to take him out? Normally Jakey Lever has a go.
Yeah, Jake, he's renowned for crashing into his own teammates, but Rory's just so courageous that he's always in that awkward position that he's running back, and he always just seems to find himself in pretty heavy collisions. But that's a credit to the way he plays, and his form has been outstanding. He never misses a beat, Rory, so he's great for our back line.
Kyle, just going further on to J-Pod, and given the fact that he's obviously just a first-year coach this year, can you perhaps give us some insight into the job that he's done and the methodology that he uses? He's obviously done a great job. The defence is going really, really well this year, particularly over the last month or so. Can you give us just some insight into his style?
He's been really good. I think the beauty of what Pods brings to the football club is he was a player last year, so he knows how the players think and what we really need and what makes us tick as well. So I think it makes the players easy to play for Pods when we were always great mates. Everyone at the club's always great mates with their teammates and the coaching staff, and when he transitions into the coaches, it just seems like he's just one of the boys still. So the way he gets the messages across is really relaxed and calm. We all have a lot of fun down there, so I think that's probably one of the keys that we've been playing successful footy is because we're comfortable with who we're playing with and having fun down there.
Mate, now obviously we're travelling pretty nicely, and no one talks the F word just yet until we've got the 12 or 13 wins. But I guess you've been part of a club that's been through a pretty successful era before you came to the Crows. Can you tell me, first of all, what it was like for yourself to be involved with a club that was winning flags, but you were just not quite making the team for whatever reason? And has that also added a little bit of fire to your own belly personally in terms of achieving success with the Crows?
I think that the fire's always been there to, I guess it's with every AFL players there to get the ultimate success at the end of the year. And I don't think the time at Hawthorn fueled that anymore, but it was a very special time to be a part of. And although I didn't play in any of the senior grand finals, it was still fantastic. All your closest mates get that feeling at the end of the year. And I was fortunate enough to play in a VFL grand final, which was great as well. But like you said before, we don't want to look too far ahead. We still need those 12 or 13 to at least qualify for finals. So it's probably a little bit of a cliche and a bit boring, but
it's a nice straight back, mate.
We don't want to go away from our processes, and if we do that, then it'll take care of itself. But we've got a big game against Collingwood this week.
Now, just digressing for a moment, mate. We had the Snake on earlier, or whatever. Do you guys call him the Snake, or you got some other name for Jake Lever?
No, he's a Snake. Self-proclaimed that one. He called himself the Snake, so we just have to roll with it.
It doesn't seem the type to self-proclaim much, except maybe everything, like the candy selling and all the rest of it. But anyway,
all that. He's worried about his skin folds at the minute. He reckons he's eating too much candy, but that's all right.
Well, specifically, mate, he was talking about a little hunt that was going on between you, Kyle Hartigan, and himself regarding first AFL goal, and I noticed that he fluffed one completely against the Demons a couple of weeks ago, and I think Kyle Hartigan might have had a sneaky look at one last week. Is that something that you guys banter about at the club?
Oh, I missed an absolute howler on the weekend as well, but everyone sort of comes
Yes.
at half time or after the game and sort of said bad luck and, don't worry about it sort of thing. But Jake came over with the hugest smile you'll ever see. He said he was pumped because I'm still leading the way in that race. So he was the only one that was happy that I was missed. So
that doesn't
hopefully he doesn't
me.
get one anytime soon.
Like playing on in the forward 50 as a defender, I mean, did he take painkillers or something during the game to mess with his head or something?
He reckons the Melbourne players called play on, and because they were so convinced, he thought it must have been play on, so he took off. And then I don't know if he thought he could just convince the umpire that he didn't do it because he put his hands up and tried to go back, but it was too late.
Yeah, it was a shocker.
Kyle,
well.
have you ever played in the forward line at all, Kyle?
No, I haven't, and probably for good reason. After the weekend, but I've always grew up as a junior playing in the midfield, and then drafted as a defender. So I've always been in the back half, and I like it down there. So if I get forward, then hopefully I can take my chances. But I obviously haven't in recent form.
But the funny thing about it is that the whole three of you, the guys you were just talking about, and their shots for goal, you all look like you're about to faint when you have to have the shot.
Well, it was actually, I took a mark, and it was actually Kyle Hartigan that someone gave away for a 50-metre penalty. It was Hardo that was the 50, and I was almost like, is it my kick or is it Kyle's? And the umpire confirmed it was mine. I was a little bit shattered that I had to take it, but especially after I missed anyway. But yeah, it would have been good for a goal to go through if it was any one of me or Kyle. But if Jake gets one, I'll be a little bit peeved, I think.
Yeah, the whole club will be, I think.
Yeah, a little bit more serious question. Just on the coach, he never seems to lose his cool or his balance. And is that just the image that we see, or is he like that all the time?
No, he is like that all the time. Well, I shouldn't say all the time. I think he's probably got his chance to get a little bit angry at times, but he's really composed with his messaging that he gives the players at quarter and three-quarter time, and his meetings on a Monday and Tuesday as well. So he's a real calming influence on the playing group, and at times the players can get a little bit angry or agitated at times, but he's great, and I think all the coaching staff are really good in that area, and really calming influence for all the players.
Yeah, because it seems that you've all got your message very, very clearly, and sometimes you might just stray a little bit off plan during the game, but he gets you back on schedule again at half time. Yeah, no, well, we I think against both Melbourne and Carlton, we didn't have the greatest of second quarters, so obviously he's messaging at half time for us to come back out and play the way we have in the last 2 weeks in the second half. Is a credit to him and his ability to recognise what the problems are and then deliver them in a way that we can receive them in a positive way and go out and play in the second half the way we have. So, it's a credit to all the coaches to be able to do that to a playing group, to change the way they're playing in the second half.
Is that two-way communication, Kyle? Do you guys have a lot of input with Pikey and the line coaches about changing structures or tweaking this and that?
Yeah, absolutely. He'll come in and ask for our opinion and what we think's happening out in the ground. We obviously get a better view and better feel for what's going on, and then if that matches up to what he's thinking, then he'll figure out a way to fix it and give us the way that he wants us to play in the second half or whenever the message comes out. So there is two-way feedback, and I think that's another asset that the coach has got, the ability to trust in the playing group to, get the right messages across.
Thanks, mate.
Now, just for a bit of fun on the coaches still, they had David Teague mic'd up and they showed it on the Crow Show on the weekend, and he was saying a particular word that we heard you guys refer to as being Walshy's keyword last year, which was "that's elite." Now, does Teague use elite a lot at training, like he's a little Walshy clone, or was it just something that was the video guys have kind of edited in a bit because they noticed him do it?
No, he don't. I think everyone uses the word elite. That's just something that's everyone at the club seems to do, and even if it's probably not elite, it's still elite. We hit it just to kick everyone yells out elite, or especially Teague. He's probably got the loudest voice out of anyone, so we hear him a fair bit yelling that out. But I'm sure when there are mistakes made, then he's the first to go over there and help him. But he's also really good when someone does something well, that he gets around him and lets them know that he's really happy with how they're going.
And just a quick fun one, your French bulldog Wheezy, which has probably got one of the best names for a dog ever. Now,
if you could hear him breathe, you'd know why.
I can imagine. Now, does he still have his issue regarding going to the toilet? And how on earth did that come about? Do you know?
I've got no idea. I was on Triple M a couple of weeks ago, and we put it out to the Triple M listeners, to anyone giving me some feedback on why my dog would do that. But he still does it. He'll go up to a tree and, he'll do a handstand and do his number twos upside down. So I've got no idea why he does it. But, there's no one out there that can tell me why he would do that. So some feedback would be great.
So you basically have to take a lot of cleaning supplies with you when you take him for a walk.
Absolutely, and especially before he gets back into the car or back into the house.
Oh, no.
It's not great, but I don't know if there's something wrong with him or he thinks he's pretty special. I don't know, but he seems to do it every time we go out.
So did Hugh Gilroy actually meet Wheezy before he decided to get a French bulldog?
He did, but I think he sort of had his heart set on a French bulldog for a while. But when he met my dog, he loved it. Him and his partner both loved Wheezy. So it was not long after that he moved over that he got a Frenchie as well. So it's good to have two of them. And I think Charlie Cameron's in the market for a French bulldog as well, which would be good.
It's another little club. You've got 3 little clubs going on there now.
Redhead, Kyles, Rorys, and Frenchies.
Just as long as you're not in the Pokemon Go club.
Oh, I'm absolutely not a part of that. There are a few boys that are.
That's shocking.
I don't know. I can't get my head around it, but I never watched the show when I was growing up. But
are they the single blokes that are getting into that?
Oh, I'd say so. Yeah, I think so. It's I don't know. It's weird. There was actually some kids out the front of Eddie Bett's house not long ago, and he could hear him talking at the front, and he was a little bit worried, so he popped his head out, and you could see them all on their phones. It must have been a Pokemon site or whatever that the kids were trying to catch these Pokemon right at the front of his house. It's unbelievable what's going on.
Kyle, something that we like to ask all the players when they come on the Crowcast is if you're in that awful situation where you've got a bit of a sore spot and you're going to have to stay over at the club overnight, who's the player you'd least like to have to stay overnight with?
It probably seems unfair to say Jake again, but he'd have to be right up there, especially if he played a good game on that day. He'd be a shocker because he just wouldn't shut up. He wouldn't get any sleep. He'd be talking about how well he went. He actually, I don't know if you've heard, but he had 30 possessions against St Kilda, I think. And was a little bit.
We did hear that.
Yeah, he was a little bit annoyed that it was only a 6-day break, that he didn't have 7 days to brag about it. So he'd be one that I'd hate to have to sleep next to on the ice overnight.
The other question we had was, we initially started out asking who's the best sledger in the club, and after the first couple of answers straight away being Tex, we've now changed the question.
I was going to say, there's an easy answer.
Yeah. What's the best sledge you've heard from Tex on the training track?
On the training track, he doesn't. I don't know. I'm sort of at the.
You stay away from him.
Yeah, I sort of stay away. I don't get too many sledges. They're all pretty standard in terms of the red hair and freckles. But yeah, I've heard that he's pretty handy come game day, but I haven't heard too many, so I wouldn't be able to quote him directly.
Apparently, Tarly doesn't mind a chirp either.
What's that?
Apparently, Tarls doesn't mind a chirp either. Has he let a couple go?
Is that Charlie?
No, Daniel Talia.
Daniel.
Oh, Tarls. Yeah. He's not too bad on him, and he's got every right to be. He very rarely gets beaten, so I actually copped a little bit of a sledge on the weekend. Dale Thomas was telling me that I was a bit of a hack, and the first centre bounce come out, and I happened to take a mark on him, and Brodie Smith went straight to him and said, "How'd you like that one?" and was into him a little bit. So Brodie Smith's probably one that's right on the lip pretty well.
I was going to follow up that other question with when you answered about Jake Lever being the least, or the person you'd least like to have overnight. Is he fairly chirpy? And this follows on from those other comments. Is he fairly chirpy during the game as well? He's obviously we had him on the show a few weeks ago, Kyle, in case you didn't know, and very, very funny bloke and great to chat to. Is he a bit like that on the field as well?
No, he's not too bad on the field. Yeah, he's not overly confident on the field, but definitely when he gets off it, that's when he starts to let his mouse go. And leading into the game, he's always chirping about how well he's going to go and how he's going to dominate. But yeah, on the field, he's not too much of a lip on the field, but it's definitely around the teammates afterwards.
Give it another year, mate.
Did Hendo get a fine from calling for a handball from Tex and then running straight to the bench?
I did notice that. That actually hasn't come up in any of the meetings this week, but I did notice it on the day, and I don't know what had happened, whether he did call for it and just thought that Tex didn't hear him or whatever. But
Tex stopped him in. When Tex was interviewed after the game by Moons, he just dobbed Hendo in straight away. He goes, he called for it and then ran to the bench.
Threw him straight under the bus.
Yeah, well, he's probably not going to throw himself under the bus, to be fair, but it did seem a little bit bizarre.
Kyle, just a serious question. Life after football for a footballer, what would you imagine your life after footy is going to be?
So I'm currently doing a diploma of business. I haven't probably going set in stone what I would like to do exactly, but I've done a few little courses along the way that have given me a few little stepping stones. But I could probably see myself moving back to Warwick-Nabil and helping out down there. And my old man and my older brother own the bakery down there, so I could go back there and help out there or something like that. But nothing in concrete at the moment. So we're just hopefully I've still got a while to decide. But just a few little courses along the way that can help out.
So you definitely got the country boy still in you.
I do prefer to go back there, but I haven't been back for a while, so it's a little bit unfortunate. But the Warwick footy team's not going overly well at the minute. But hopefully I can get back and watch my brothers play sometime soon.
Thanks, mate.
Kyle, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you along tonight. We really appreciate the time that you've given to the Crowcast and to the fans of the Crows that listen to us. So we really do appreciate your time.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me on.
He is a terrific bloke and a terrific player, and I've really, really enjoyed his season. And I'll just put it out there that I had him in the best 22 before the start of the year, and so I'm happy with that. And also would add that I went into bat for him pretty strongly in the first 4 or 5 rounds when everyone was calling for his head. But anyway, loving the way that he plays. He's a very, very good decision maker. He brings a lot of, I think, from his time at Hawthorn, his disposal is very calm. He's very, very composed, and he makes very, very good decisions. And love having him back there.
He's definitely grown as a footballer this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's very, very, very good. All right, moving along. We have a very, very big occasion on the weekend. We have one of the real true greats of the Adelaide Football Club. Scotty Thompson has his 300th game on the weekend. He has been a stalwart, he has been a warrior, and more than that, he's just been a fantastic player for the Adelaide Football Club. And I understand, Phoenix, you've got a little bit of a recorded piece there on Thommo for us.
Big fly again, but this time it's Thompson. It's a high standard early. Clark goes to Thompson, bouncing towards the goal for a major. Over the top, it wasn't bad. Thompson might kick a goal.
Thompson or Rutten. It's a goal.
Adelaide pushing forward again. Here's Chippendale holding the ball, showing his basketball pedigree to Thompson through traffic, wheeling and dealing. The Crows have kicked another. The right foot into the pocket. What a mark from Thompson.
Hill in a bit of a wrestle there. Edwards, but only as far as Reamers. Great tackle.
Decided to punch. Can they get a late goal on that area? You bet they can. What a terrific kick from Thompson.
Ready from the turnover. Stevens, not 15 says. So Thompson has to swing around on the right boot. Gets a really good look at it. And he's got the first of the showdown.
Fatigue is obviously a real issue for him.
Got his hands free there to May, but he couldn't. Well done by Robinson. And then right, Thompson from 40 metres goes bang. Trying to get it to Thompson. Thompson came again, found himself through space and found the goals. Great response by the Crows. So he can kick it to 65 metres. Oh, the bounce, and the bounce is Torre.
To the square, good spot. Thompson's down there.
They're starting to enjoy themselves now. Mr. Milestone takes the one-hander. Nicely by Wright. And again, the one-hander.
Knocks it down. Murphy read the knock. Stolen back by Thompson from 50. Sidestep, Pozziadli. Top of the square. Thompson wants to come back inside. Superb. And the crowd's back into it. Thompson, stand start. Oh, it's a miracle minute for Adelaide. 2 in a row.
Thought about it. Now he's got a kick or bounce. He bounces. And his indecision was costly in the end.
Thompson, coming around. Like it sets the storm coming. Opens up the angle. They needed a hero.
So Thompson comes up and lays a big tackle. And Thompson, stand start. Fantastic finish. Another one. They're racking him up, the Adelaide Crows. Set him up and knock him down. Heaves it forward. Mumford's giving his all in the middle. But Thompson has been absolutely magnificent for the Adelaide Crows.
The winner of the Philip Walsh Medal for Showdown 39 from the Adelaide Football Club, Scott Thompson.
Some magnificent audio there, and thanks very much to the Adelaide Football Club for providing that audio. Before we move along to the next segment, any comments just on Scott Thompson and I guess tributes to a guy who's been a great player for our club?
In my opinion, what's really made him stand out above some of the guys who have played some more games for the Crows is that he, for a lot of the time, he was really our number one midfielder, whereas when Goody and Edwards and Rue and McLeod were playing, they were all playing together. Thommo's done a lot of it on his own. So I think that's probably put him up a few rungs in my books.
That's a very good point, Daniels, I reckon. And the other beauty about it is that we got him for draft pick 12 in a trade, and to get a player who's an All-Australian and been our best and fairest twice, and as you said, has led the midfield and taken the brunt of it on his hands. He's been an outstanding pickup.
And what I found interesting was the clubs actually put out some numbers to do with his career. And so since 2005, he's ranked third in the AFL for total disposals behind Sam Mitchell and Dame Swan. He's then also ranked third once again clearances behind Mitchell and Prudis. His contested possession count again, he's third behind Gary Ablett Jr. and Priddis. And tackles, he's third behind Priddis and Andrew Swallow. And yet, on AFL 360 tonight, they said, oh, yeah, he's a really good midfielder, but he's not in the top echelon. I'm sorry, those numbers say that he is.
Yeah, look, he's there's no doubt that he's an absolute ornament to the LA Football Club, and he's certainly an ornament to the game, and he's been brilliant, and I've got no doubt that the guys will honour him. And I think, as I posted earlier in the week, his picture will hang very, very comfortably and rightly alongside all of our 300-game legends. So well done to Scotty Thompson. He's been absolutely brilliant. All right, moving along, I think we'll perhaps have a look at the cock-wobbling numbnut of the week award. Now, I reckon I threw this in early just because I reckon we can get this over and done with in about 30 seconds and then move on. Obviously, we're just going to give this to the bomb for yet its third absolutely appalling effort of forecasting the weather on Sunday. So we'll just rack that one up and move along, shall we?
No, I just need to clear things up. So how do you get your information from the bomb? Are you listening to the TV? Are you getting it on an app on your phone? How are you getting the information, Peter?
Quite simply, it's really easy. All I do is I go into Google and I put Adelaide weather or Melbourne weather, and it comes up with the Bureau of Meteorology forecast, and I click on that, and there's the forecast, which tells me that against St Kilda, against North Melbourne, and here in Melbourne against Carlton, it said that basically the world was going to end.
Right. Okay. So you need to get an app on your phone that actually tells you weather, because this is what happens, Peter. If there's going to be possibility of rain, and it's kind of around the 50% to a little bit higher, that's when they will say that there's going to be rain. It doesn't guarantee that there's actually going to be rain, but the nice little apps like something like Weather Australia, which get the information from the bomb, and what that does, you can click on it and it tells you what time of the day and what the percentage chance of the rain is.
I think what we need to do, Nikki, we need to have right here and now, given the fact that you give the award, we need to have a register of declarations of any kind of personal relationships or acquaintances that you have that may or may not be involved with the bomb.
None. Absolutely.
Are you sure about that?
Yep. But
I
was very good at weather when I was studying geography in high school, and I said my father was a geographer and his specialty was actually weather. But he doesn't work for the bomb, and he's never worked for the bomb.
Okay, well, in all of those games, it was up to it was a 90% chance of rain.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it absolutely, for Melbourne for this week, absolutely, it was on the forecast, 90% chance of rain.
Yeah, but Melbourne just sucks. Okay, so the other nominations, before you can have your say, Peter, we'll just get through. There were a couple of other nominations. We did mention Beveridge for his being a hypocrite. Vardy Magic called him something else in the chat. I'm not going to say it on the podcast, but yeah, probably. I also think there possibly could be the Port Adelaide medical staff for actually leaving Hamish Hartlett on the ground and now having a please explain from the AFL. They'll brush it off, but yeah, he was concussed. They needed to do the test, but they didn't. Hendo was probably a pretty decent one for running away from Tex after calling for the handball. I mean, seriously, if you're going to do it, you don't do it to your captain. What were some of the other ones that were raised? There was a particular person on the Port Adelaide board which caused a lot of mirth on our boards for saying that Don Pike is ruining the game because of the way we're playing. Well, he can keep ruining the game for all he wants because we're quite happy with how it's going.
I don't even understand that. How could he possibly be ruining the game? We're playing the most exciting brand of football in the AFL this year.
No, apparently not, because Joe the Goose goals are boring.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Well, they'll want an offside rule soon.
And their defence still won't be able to cope.
Right,
And
so can we call the bomb yet?
Well, you see, I'm thinking it needs to be beverage again, but I'll let you have it, Peter.
Thanks, Nikki. You're a champ.
Because I don't think we'll hear the end of this if I didn't.
I feel so much better.
Well, what's happened to the Wombles?
Somebody killed the chook by the sound of it.
We might have to reopen the awards.
Mind you, whenever he plays that, I just kind of sit there and bop along, and then he stops and like, I was getting into that. I miss that song.
He's a funny man. Okay, moving along. Thanks very much, Nikki, for that. We do appreciate it. All right, let's quickly move along. We're going to have a quick review of the Carlton game on Sunday, which I had the privilege of being at. And let's just hear a couple of highlights from the game.
Kerridge made it look better, and now Atkins can run and they can utilise their skill off half-back. Sloane pumping the handball to Walker. He's got Jenkins, he's going to have to kick at 65. He's just the man for it. What a kick! It was potent as ever, and Jenkins puts it through. Lynch. Now the run comes again. Good kick towards Eddie. Oh, did he take it? He has. I think wrestle and tussle on in the ruck. Phillips got it down. Sloane to Atkins. Had the handball. Knew it. Brad Crouch. McGovern will try and run onto this. It's all about the bounce now. And the desire. And it's gone all the way through. There's more than a little bit of... See a clear path to goal. McKay has it cracked. Lynch from behind. Reaching over. Doherty. Here is Walker. Everyone was minding their own business. He got the handball off and McGovern's kicked the goal off the left boot. To take it now, a wayward slap leaves Sloane kicking back. Carlton well represented here again. Doherty needed to be clean, stumbled, Hardigan all over him, able to paddle the ball back through the middle. Bents, and now they can
Lynch
run.
Running hard.
Lynch will be there to receive this in the square. Got it from Douglas, and that hurts. Back out to Lever. Simpson had his eyes on it, was spoiled by his own teammate. Now Sloane hooks it back. There's crows everywhere. McGovern, Eddie Betts, handball to Jacobs. He can poke through his second. Lynch. And it fell well for Atkins.
Kerridge needed to go. Oh, Jenkins is on his own.
He was, but he still is just. And he kicks the goal. It was for him instead. It's Adelaide on the surge. Thompson's control kick is good to Crouch. Down the line, they've got Jenkins at centre half forward, screaming for it all alone. 35 metres out.
Players are getting caught in between.
Qualify each other in the ruck, but Douglas is able to shape one for a goal. Another for the Crows. Path. And now Thompson. Cameron's going to bolt inside 50. There's already a man overboard. Jacobs. And Big Sam doesn't mark in the air, but he's going to kick his third, and won't he relish that?
Recovery.
How quick was the stand-up? Crouch went underground.
Grubber.
Eddie crossed to McKay, and he runs it through. And the lead is blown out past.
Very nice win there for the Crows on Sunday. I was privileged to be there and sitting in the MCC members for the first time. It was jolly good, I could say. They even sold sushi and salad wraps at the MCC members, so it was very, very nice. And so, what do you think of the game, guys? I thought it was a fairly workmanlike effort from our boys.
Well, that's exactly that it should be described. I think, tradesmanlike. I didn't think the first half reached any great heights, and I thought that we probably weren't quite at our best, particularly in the second quarter. We were sort of breaking even in the middle at that stage, but after half time, and Cheney put it very well, that they reset at half time, and the coaches get them to do what they should have done in the first place, and they get their game going, and that's exactly what did happen. In the second half, we got our game going. It was a little bit harder because the weather made life a little bit more difficult in getting the ball, etc. And I think that's where our extra skills and abilities came into play. And we eventually got on top, and we ground them like a good side should. I mean, they're not a hopeless side, Carlton, and but I think that we managed to. As we kept going and going, we got on top, and we got a 10-goal win, and I think that's about the target I would have set at the beginning of the game. And I think we could just, as we say, it was a workmanlike game, and we won and did what we should have done. There's not much more I can add to that.
I'd be interested, Peter, because Wayne's World in the chat during our Sunday wrap, and we didn't talk about it then, but he actually said, from his viewing the game, being there, that Charlie Cameron was kind of targeted in a way by Carlton. They were very conscious of him, it seems. Was that your impression at all?
They were certainly and same with Eddie as well. That Eddie copped a lot of physical stuff, particularly when they were alternating doing that running off the back of the square thing that they do. And so just before the ball was being bounced, they were copping quite a lot when they were lining up. So they were paying a little bit of a physical price for lining up there and doing that run through. So that was certainly the case for sure.
I'd love to know what was said to Matt Crouch at halftime. Despite getting 15 or 20 disposals in the first half, I thought his pressure and second efforts was absolutely woeful. And I definitely had a look for how he went in the second half, and he definitely picked up. He was much better in the second half in terms of making an effort. So many times, there was at least 4 or 5 times in the first half that he was within distance of putting pressure on a ball carrier and just stood there or jogged in the opposite direction, and it frustrated me no end.
Yeah, look, I mean, one thing I would say is that Carlton are a good side. They're not the worst side going around by a long stretch. And if you look at it statistically, we kicked 107 points on the weekend, and funnily enough, in 3 of our games this year, we've landed on 107 points, coincidentally. But there's only been, I think we only had 3 or 4 scores under 107 for the year. And so, in fact, they actually did a very, very good job in restricting our side. The problem for Carlton is they can't score. And I made this point earlier in the week that Bolton appears to be getting them to rebuild from defence, which is a very, it's an admirable thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do. It's what Melbourne did. And, as time goes on and they get their defensive structures down pat, then they can then move towards being a more offensive team. But there was no doubt that they made it difficult for us, and we didn't score as much as what we would, what we quite often have this year. It's just the fact that the 60-point margin blew out was because they could only score 7 goals, and the fact that they really just don't have any kind of Armfield kicked 4 goals. Of their 7, they got 4 from Armfield, who was coming back from a nasty injury, I don't know whether he's kicked 4 goals in a game before. Or he had a few threes. He's a decent player, but he's not a player that they would normally rely upon to kick 4 goals, and so that was their problem.
Interestingly on that, Sam Jacobs actually said he was getting into Dennis when the game started about his kicking and how crap his kicking is, and then he goes and kicks those. And he actually said the entire time that he was at Carlton, and even the Carlton boys during the game were lauding it because they've never seen Armfield kick like that before in his life. And 3 of them were from outside 50. I mean, they were ones that normally he wouldn't kick. If you take those out, it would have been even more woeful of a score for Carlton.
Oh, that's right.
The 4th goal was that That's right. The fourth goal was a left foot from just inside the 50 as well.
Yeah. So they're all nice and fluky
he had a
ones.
day out. He had a day out, and you take Armfield out, and there's only 3 other goals, and so that's where their problem lies, and that's why they ended up being a 60-point margin, and that's why they were never ever going to, I didn't think, get too close to us because the way that Adelaide play now, if you're going to beat Adelaide or put pressure on them, you've got to keep scoring, like Melbourne did last week. They just kept scoring because we'll keep scoring. And so a team like Carlton, but statistically, when you look at the score that we kicked on Sunday, they actually did a pretty good job.
And as Vardy Magic just said, and he did it coming back from a split testicle. So that's a fair injury. I don't think anybody would ever want. Dougie can attest to that. But the thing that got me was, even though we're calling this workmanlike and everything else, there was a GWS game. The commentators during that one were saying that, okay, GWS aren't playing well, so Cameron's going to have to fix this during the week. And yet you compare it with what's happened the past 2 weeks with our team, we fix it during the game. We reset, and Pike and the coaching staff, as we heard from Cheney, they're able to just do those little adjustments, get the players' heads back in the space it needs to be, and get them going out there and playing better again. And the fact that for the last couple of the last quarters for the last 4 weeks or so, insane how tight our defence has been. It's unlike the Adelaide Crows that we've known for years. We now do put the foot to the throat on teams.
The other thing I like, Nikki, is the fact that, just carrying on from what you were saying, is that every time we sort of get into a little bit of trouble and the other team's starting to score, we turn it into a bit of a scrap and a struggle, take a little bit of the skill out and put a lot more physical into it so that the ball doesn't move around very far and doesn't go very quickly into their forward lines, and that slows it all down and our back line gets back on top. So, that's part of the process of resetting, is to just turn the game around from the direction in which it was heading, which is obviously, if we wanted to turn around, obviously the wrong direction. And once we get the game back onto that turns where it's a scrap and a struggle, and then we gradually get our game going again, and away we go. And I think that's probably about the third game almost in a row that we've done this.
And that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, you look at the Collingwood GWS game on the weekend, and when GWS were in control of that game at quarter time, and Collingwood just absolutely blitzed them in the second quarter, kicking 9 goals to 2. And GWS didn't recover from that. They didn't have anywhere to go, and Collingwood were able to effectively hold that lead, and they won really by the length of that quarter. So it is a big thing to be able to reset during a game, and I think that one of the most impressive displays of the season was last week, really, when when Melbourne kicked 8 goals against us, and we were able to reset at half time and just absorb that and march on. So terrific stuff. And so just looking quickly then, as we come towards the end of another Tuesday Night Live Crowcast, huge game on the weekend against Collingwood. They had a great win against GWS. I guess the question is was that an outlier for Collingwood? And will they be able to maintain that kind of intensity against us this Saturday night?
Well, they've got the ability to do it, haven't they? They played very, very good football. I watched that game and I was very impressed with the football that they played. But and I reckon the game that we're going to have this weekend on Saturday night, I reckon will be a struggle in the first half, and we might get on a little bit on top, or we might not. But I reckon in the second half, I reckon then we'll get on top, because they played one game at that level, and not necessarily against. They did play it against a very good team, but I think we're a better team, and I think we'll probably end up, in my opinion, winning by about 4 or 5 goals, but only after a bit of a titanic struggle in the first half.
I actually think Cheney's probably going to have the role in for Solo, and that's going to be quite key if they're getting it out of the middle.
That's only if the solo plays, so.
Yeah, well, yeah. And hopefully he doesn't, because he makes such a huge difference. The reason their 2 good wins have happened recently is the fact that he's come back into the team. I mean, they're kind of talking up about Cloak and how well he's playing and everything else. It's like, well, we've got Talia and Hardigan. I don't think Cloak's going to quite get it on his platter like he did against GWS. And GWS, that midfield didn't give a bit of a squeak, whereas we know our midfield's happy to have a scrap.
I think we match up really, really well then defensively, because Talia will take Cloak, Hardigan will take White, and Jake Lieber will take Moore. So, and if Fasolo plays, and Cheney will take Fasolo. So we do really match up with them very, very well.
He just summed down about Fasolo, is he?
Yeah, he's nursing a sore shoulder. I think he had 4 or 5 weeks off with a broken scapula.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, he was really, really impressive. Like Nicky said, he was a spark in the forward line, no doubt about that. And the other guy that's very, very important too is their ruckman, and he had a very, very good game last week, and better than he's played for a long, long time. But I still think that Jacobs will wear him down as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tricky one. I think it'll be harder than the last 2 that we've had. And but yeah, I'm like you, Macca. I think, excuse me, after a struggle, we'll eventually get over the line. Well, that unfortunately, folks, takes us to about an hour, and that's our Tuesday Night Live. Apparently, we didn't have a lot to talk about tonight because we had that interruption from that Kyle Cheney bloke that came in and chatted away. So, I'm not sure whether listeners would prefer to listen to Kyle or listen to our expert commentary.
Yeah, I loved it. Actually, it was a very, very good interview, wasn't it? I loved the interview. I thought Kyle certainly put in and gave us a very good interview.
Yeah, he speaks really well, doesn't he? He sounds like it. There's a lot of, I know when he was traded over, there was a lot of talk about the fact that he was a very, very well-liked player at Hawthorn.
Yeah, not hard to see why. Mm.
Yeah, Walsh was glowing about him. That he's the type of bloke you just want in your club.
Yeah, no, he's good to have along. All right, thank you very much, everyone. That's another Tuesday Night Live for this week. Been great to have you all along, and I hope you enjoyed the listen. And thanks very much to Nicky and Danos and Macca. Appreciate all of your thoughts and insights. And of course, we always thank Phoenix for his tech work. And we'll catch you next week on Tuesday Night Live.
Bye all.
See ya.